The rain had a way of swallowing sound, muffling the chaotic pulse of the city until everything felt distant, almost unreal. Ethan Hale walked briskly through the narrow alley, his polished shoes splashing through shallow puddles. Every drop that hit his coat rolled off the fine fabric like it didn't dare cling to him, just as people in his life rarely clung to him for long. He kept it that way. Clean, efficient, controlled. His driver had insisted on waiting in front of the tower, but Ethan disliked delays. He preferred shortcuts, preferred shaving seconds off every task, preferred moving so quickly that nothing, not memories, not feelings, could catch him. But then he heard it. A thin, trembling sob. Fragile, honest, impossible to ignore. He stopped mid-step, breath catching in a way that startled him. His first instinct was to tell himself it was a stray cat, wind, anything ordinary. But the sound came again, soft, choked, heartbreaking. Mommy, please, Mommy, wake up. The voice sliced through the rain like a plea wrapped in desperation. Ethan turned toward the sound, eyes narrowing as he scanned the dark. The alley was dim, lit only by the distant glow of a broken neon sign flickering like a dying heartbeat. Cold water dripped from rusted fire escapes, pooling near overturned trash bins. It was the kind of place he never lingered. Yet he stepped closer. At first he saw only shadows, shapes merging with the darkness. But then a small figure became clear, a little girl, kneeling on the wet cement. Her tiny shoulders shook beneath a soaked dress, her hands trembling as she tried to lift the face of a woman lying motionless against the brick wall. Lightning flashed overhead, illuminating the scene for a single, brutal moment. The girl couldn't have been more than 5. Maybe 6. Her hair clung to her cheeks like dark ribbons, and water ran down her arms as she clutched her mother. The woman's head lolled to the side, her skin pale, lips tinged with alarming blue. The child whispered again, voice barely holding together. Sir, Mommy can't walk, please. Ethan felt something cold coil inside him. Fear. No, he hadn't let himself feel fear in years. But this was something sharper, deeper, something he hadn't felt since the night he held his infant son in his arms while praying to anyone who would listen. He stepped closer, mouthing words before he realized it. It's all right. I'm here. The girl jerked her head up, startled. Her eyes, wide, wet, impossibly big, searched his face as if trying to decide whether he was real or just another passerby who would hurry away. Please help, she whispered, voice catching. Mommy won't wake up. She said she was just tired but then she fell in. I pull but she's too heavy. Ethan's chest tightened. He crouched, lowering himself carefully so he didn't scare her. Rain dripped from his hair, sliding down the side of his face, but he didn't notice. Hey, he said softly, I'm going to check on her, okay? She nodded, swallowing a sob. Up close, the woman looked worse. Her breathing was shallow, barely noticeable. Her wrist felt cold against his fingers. Too cold. He brushed aside her wet hair, revealing a dark bruise at her temple. Had she collapsed and hit her head? Had someone hurt her? The thought made something dangerous flicker in him. What happened? He asked quietly. The girl wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Mommy was walking with me to the bus stop. She said she didn't feel good. She stumbled in, and then she said she just needed a minute. But she closed her eyes and wouldn't open them again. The child's voice shook like a leaf in a storm. And people walked by. I asked, but they didn't stop. They looked and they kept going. Her voice broke. Ethan closed his eyes for half a second. He could imagine it, the cold glances, the way people avoided responsibility, the way the world stepped over the fallen. He had once been the one on the ground. Forgotten, unhelped, unimportant. He wouldn't let this child feel that kind of abandonment. What's your name? He asked. Lila. Okay, Lila, he said gently, I'm going to help your mom, but I need to lift her. Is that all right? Her tiny chin wobbled, but she nodded. He slid one arm beneath the woman's legs, one behind her back, and lifted. She weighed almost nothing, like someone who had eaten too little for too long. Her head slumped against his shoulder, her hair brushing his jaw. The chilled stillness of her body made him tighten his grip instinctively, protectively. Lila scrambled to her feet and grabbed the edge of his coat, walking beside him in small, hurried steps as if afraid he might vanish and take her mother with him. The rain softened to a drizzle, and the neon sign behind them flickered again, casting a pale glow on the alley as they walked out. The world outside was louder, brighter, unaware of the small tragedy unfolding within it. Is Mommy going to be okay? Lila asked, trying to keep her voice steady but failing. She will, Ethan said, without hesitation. And for the first time in years, he meant something with absolute certainty. He carried the woman as though she were precious cargo. As though the weight of her life, and her daughter's, had settled into his arms and anchored itself to his chest. Every step he took out of that alley felt like stepping out of the past he'd spent years trying to outrun. Because now, someone needed him again. And he couldn't turn away. The hospital lights were too bright, too sterile, too still, yet somehow the quiet humming of machines, the hurried footsteps of nurses, and the faint scent of antiseptic all felt grounding after the chaos of the alley. Ethan carried the unconscious woman through the sliding glass doors as if she weighed nothing, though in truth he had never carried a heavier responsibility. The medical team rushed toward him even before he finished giving instructions. His voice, usually cold, clipped, and commanding, was unrecognizable even to himself as he urgently explained her condition. A stretcher appeared, and he carefully lowered her onto it, making sure Lila could see where her mother was going. "Stay close to me," he murmured to the little girl. She clung to his coat, her tiny fingers curling into the fabric with desperate trust. He didn't move until her mother was wheeled through the emergency doors, and even then, he lingered at the boundary as if willing the doctors to work faster. When the doors finally shut, Lila tugged at his sleeve. "Where are they taking Mommy?" "To help her breathe better," Ethan said softly, guiding her toward the waiting area. "They're giving her medicine and warm blankets. They'll make her stronger." But she didn't wake up. Lila's voice wavered. "She will." His tone left no room for doubt, though inside he carried a knot of worry that only tightened with every minute. They sat on stiff chairs that felt too large for the little girl. She swung her legs, unable to keep still. Her dress was still damp, clinging to her thin frame. Ethan found a blanket folded on a nearby counter and gently draped it around her shoulders. She pulled it close. "Thank you, sir. You can call me Ethan." She nodded, but didn't repeat it. Her thoughts were somewhere else entirely. He could see it in the way her small hands twisted the edge of the blanket. Minutes passed. Or maybe hours. Waiting had a way of stretching time. Finally, she whispered, "Mommy didn't eat today." Ethan turned to her. "How do you know?" "When she feeds me, she always says she already ate. But she didn't. I can tell. She gives me everything she has." Lila's voice trembled. "I tried to tell her I'm not hungry, but she's stubborn." He felt something sharp pinch behind his ribs. This wasn't just exhaustion. This wasn't a random collapse. This was a woman who had been fighting far too long, with too little help. "Does she work?" he asked. "At the cafe on Willow Street. But last week," Lila swallowed. "Last week she fainted at work. They said they don't need someone who gets dizzy." He closed his eyes. The unfairness of it dug into him like a thorn. "What about family?" he asked quietly. "It's just us." Lila's gaze dropped. "Mommy says we can do anything together. But sometimes she gets so tired she can't stand for long." Her voice cracked at the end, so soft he almost didn't hear it. He didn't interrupt. Letting her speak seemed to ease the weight pressing down on her tiny shoulders. A nurse emerged through the double doors. "Ethan Hale." He rose immediately, and Lila shot up beside him. The nurse knelt to the girl. "Your mommy is awake now, sweetheart. She's asking for you." Relief washed over Lila so suddenly that her knees wobbled. Before she could fall, Ethan steadied her with a hand on her back. The nurse guided them into a private room. It was small, quiet, illuminated by a soft light that made everything feel warmer. On the bed lay the woman, Maya. He finally had a name for her. Her eyes fluttered open as Lila rushed to her side. "Mommy," Lila cried, grabbing her hand. Maya's fingers curled weakly around her daughter's. "Lila, I'm so sorry, baby. I didn't mean to scare you." "You fell asleep on the ground," Lila whispered. "But the man helped us. He carried you." Maya turned her gaze toward Ethan. Up close, her exhaustion was even clearer, dark circles beneath her eyes, cheekbones too sharp, lips cracked from dehydration. But there was also warmth in her expression, a softness that struck him with unexpected force. "You," she swallowed, voice fragile. "You saved me. You saved your daughter," he replied quietly. "She's the one who stayed brave and found help." Maya blinked, absorbing the words, her eyes glistening. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come." He didn't respond immediately. The truth, the thought of what might have happened, wrapped cold fingers around his spine. "How are you feeling?" he finally asked. "Tired," she whispered. "But I can breathe again. And they gave me fluids." "You collapsed from exhaustion. And malnutrition," Ethan said carefully. "The doctor mentioned anemia and dehydration." Maya's eyes darted away, embarrassment flickering across her face. I've been managing. It's been a hard month. I didn't expect to." "You shouldn't have had to manage alone," he said, the firmness of his tone surprising even himself. Her gaze lifted, confused and cautious, as if she wasn't sure whether to believe him. Lila had crawled into the bed beside her, snuggling carefully against Maya's side. Her small hand stroked her mother's arm with unmistakable devotion. The nurse came in again, holding a clipboard. She's stable, but she needs rest, proper nutrition, and a calm environment. We'll keep her overnight to monitor her blood levels. Maya nodded, but anxiety shadowed her eyes. Overnight stay, I can't afford. You don't need to worry about the cost, Ethan said immediately. Her head snapped toward him. What? No, I can't let. It's already taken care of, he replied calmly. Focus on getting better. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Gratitude, confusion, pride, he saw all of it flicker across her face. Lila tugged at her blanket. Mommy, he's nice. Maya let out a breath. Shoulders relaxing just slightly. He is, she whispered, her voice warm even in its weakness. For a moment, the room was silent except for the soft beeping of the heart monitor. Ethan stood there longer than he meant to, watching the small family, watching Lila curl against her mother, watching Maya brush her daughter's hair back with shaking fingers. Something shifted in him. Something he hadn't expected. He wasn't just concerned for them, he was invested. This wasn't going to end in the hospital room. He knew, deep in the place he'd locked away for years, that he couldn't walk away from these two lives that had collided with his in the rain. Not now, not ever, not this time.